It was midnight when my phone lit up. My dad was calling. His voice was shaking in a way I'd never heard before. He said just one thing: "Don't go home. Stay where you are." I asked why, but he didn't explain, he just begged me to trust him. 10 minutes later, police cars flooded my street, sirens screaming, red and blue lights flashing against the walls of my own house. In that moment, I realized my father had just saved me from something I never saw coming. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more real stories like this, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 27, a nurse at a small community hospital. That night, I'd just finished a 12-hour shift. I was exhausted, dreaming of nothing but my bed. I live alone in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where nothing ever happens and people still leave their doors unlocked, or so I thought. My dad, Daniel, is a retired firefighter. He's always been protective, the kind of father who never stops checking in, even when I insist I'm fine. My mom, Linda, is softer, quicker to worry. My younger brother, Ethan, is the one who lightens every room. But my dad is different. When he speaks, he means it. He's always told me, if I ever tell you to trust me, don't question it. That night, as I drove toward my street, everything felt unusually quiet. Streetlights flickered. A heavy silence hung over the neighborhood. I didn't think much of it, not until the call came. My dad's voice was shaking, and he told me to stay away from my own home. I didn't understand why, but I was about to find out. I pulled into a gas station and sat there, my heart racing. His words were still ringing in my ears. Don't go home. Stay where you are. Please trust me. I'd never heard him sound like that. This was a man who had run into burning buildings for a living, who never flinched at danger. Now his voice was breaking, like he was holding back panic. From a distance, I could see my street. Part of me wanted to believe he was overreacting, but another part knew he wouldn't call like this unless something was truly wrong. I gripped the steering wheel, arguing with myself. Was there a fire? Was someone hurt? I thought about calling my mom, but I was afraid she wouldn't have answers, or worse, that she'd say something that would only make my fear worse. My dad kept calling back. Each time, his voice was urgent but clipped. He didn't explain. He only repeated, "Stay where you are. Emily, please don't move until I say it's safe." I felt trapped between two choices. One part of me wanted to turn the car around and drive straight to my house, just to prove everything was fine. I hated feeling helpless. But the other part remembered all the times my dad's instincts had been right. He'd pulled me out of a lake seconds before lightning struck it. He'd once stopped our family from getting into a car he swore felt wrong, and later we learned the brakes were failing. He'd always had a way of sensing danger before it arrived. Still, this was different. This was my home, and if something was happening inside it, I needed to know. I turned off the engine and sat in the dim glow of the gas station lights. My reflection in the windshield showed a pale, shaking version of myself. I'd worked with patients in crisis, but I'd never felt this kind of fear for my own life. My phone buzzed again. I answered. "Dad, you're scaring me. Please, just tell me what's going on." A pause. Then his voice came back, quiet but firm. "Emily, listen to me. If you go into that house tonight, I don't know if I'll see you again. Stay there. The police are on their way." My stomach dropped. My own house, my safe place. I looked back toward my street. It was so calm, so ordinary, and yet the way he said those words made me feel like a shadow was already waiting behind my door. Minutes crawled by like hours. Every sound made me jump. The hum of the gas station sign, a distant dog barking, headlights that seemed to move too slowly. I thought about walking closer, just to peek, but I couldn't shake the memory of my dad's voice cracking with fear. Then I heard them, the faint wail of sirens, at first just a hum, then growing louder until the sound filled the night. I sat frozen as police cars raced past the gas station and turned down my street. Their red and blue lights cut through the darkness, bouncing off houses, painting the quiet neighborhood in chaos. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I grabbed my phone. "Dad, the police are here. What's happening? Please, I can't take this." He answered quickly, his voice steady now but heavy. "Emily, I'll explain soon. Right now I just need you safe. That's all that matters. Trust me." Tears filled my eyes. Trust him. I always had. But what could be so terrible that I wasn't even allowed inside my own home? I watched from a distance as more police cars pulled up. Officers jumped out, some with flashlights, others with weapons drawn. They moved in formation, boots pounding the pavement, radios buzzing with clipped voices. My neighborhood, the one I'd always thought was safe, looked like a crime scene. I wanted to run to them, to demand answers, to take control, but I couldn't. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I felt small and powerless. The thought that something inside that house could have harmed me sent a shiver down my spine. My dad had known, somehow, before I even pulled into the driveway. As I sat there watching everything unfold, a truth settled deep inside me. My life had hung on the thin thread of my father's warning. If I'd ignored him, if I'd gone into that house like I'd planned, I might not be sitting here at all. And yet I still didn't know what was waiting behind those walls, or why the police were there. All I knew was that the night was only beginning, and my entire world was about to change. I stayed at the gas station, staring at the lights flashing down my street. My body felt locked in place, my mind spinning with questions. I wanted so badly to drive forward, to rush to the house I'd worked so hard to make a home. But my dad's warning held me back like invisible chains. For the first time in my life, I truly felt that stepping forward might cost me everything. I pressed the phone tighter against my ear as my dad spoke again. His voice was calmer now, but heavy, like it carried the weight of something awful he wasn't ready to tell me. Emily, you have to listen. Don't try to be brave right now. Bravery could get you killed. You staying put is the only reason you're still safe. My throat tightened. But Dad, what's happening? What's inside my house? He paused. I could hear him breathing hard, like he was pacing. Then he said, I can't tell you yet. Not until the police clear it. But promise me, don't move until I say. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, tears slipping down my face. I felt like a child again, caught between fear and trust. But I whispered, I promise. Those next minutes stretched like hours. I could see shadows of officers moving across my street, flashlights sweeping through windows, beams of light slicing through the dark. Their radios crackled, and even though I couldn't make out the words, the tone was sharp and urgent. Something was definitely wrong, something bad enough that I wasn't allowed within 100 feet of my own house. For a moment, anger bubbled up inside me. Why wouldn't anyone tell me what was going on? It was my house, my life. I had every right to know. My hands shook as I almost turned the key in the ignition, ready to drive closer and demand answers. But then my phone buzzed again, and my dad's voice came through with words that froze me where I sat. Emily, if you had walked into that house tonight, I don't think you'd still be alive right now. The way he said it, calm, certain, sent chills through my body. He wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't trying to scare me. He meant it. The tears I'd been fighting spilled over. I had almost gone inside without hesitation. I had almost ignored him. That thought shook me more than anything. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to steady my breathing. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about being uncomfortable or scared. This was life and death, and my dad's instinct had once again saved me. The sirens had faded, replaced by the low murmur of voices carried on the wind. Then, suddenly, shouting erupted. I sat up straight, heart pounding, as I saw two officers drag a man out of my house. His face was covered in shadows, but I could see him struggling against them, his arms pulled behind his back in handcuffs. My body went cold. There was someone inside. My phone buzzed again. It was my mom this time, her voice cracking with panic. Emily, are you okay? Please tell me you're not near the house. I'm at the gas station, I answered quickly. Dad told me to stay. She sobbed in relief, and I could hear her whisper, thank God. I looked back at the scene unfolding. Police officers were swarming my yard. More cars pulled up. Neighbors started stepping outside, whispering and pointing. I had never felt so exposed, like my entire life was suddenly on display, yet I was still completely in the dark. As I sat there gripping the phone, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about curiosity anymore. This was about survival. My dad had always told me that instincts can save your life if you listen. And now, his instincts had done just that. For the first time, I stopped fighting and fully trusted him. I wiped my tears and whispered into the phone, okay, Dad. I'm not moving. I'll wait until you tell me it's safe. His voice softened, thick with emotion. "That's all I need, Emily. Just wait. I'll come get you myself when it's over." Those words anchored me. I leaned back against my seat, trembling, but steady enough to stay put. I didn't know what nightmare had just been pulled out of my house, but I knew one thing for sure: if I had ignored his call, I might not be here to tell this story. The turning point wasn't dramatic action or running into danger. It was the choice to trust, to sit still when every part of me wanted to move, to believe my father even when I didn't understand why. And in the end, that decision made the difference between walking into a trap and staying alive long enough to see the truth revealed. From the gas station, I could see my entire street flashing in red and blue. Neighbors had come out in their pajamas, whispering and pointing as police swarmed my yard. I sat frozen, clutching my phone, barely breathing as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. When the officers dragged a man out of my front door, my stomach dropped. There was really someone in my house, hiding, waiting. Even from a distance, I could see his wild eyes darting back and forth, his clothes torn, his arms pinned behind him in handcuffs. He wasn't just a burglar looking for cash. There was something different about the way he looked, something deliberate and unsettling. My whole body went cold as I realized how close I had been to walking inside while he was there. I whispered into the phone, "Dad, I see them. They have someone. Who is he? What was he doing in my house?" My father's voice was steady but heavy with pain. "Emily, stay calm. The police will explain soon. But I need you to know, you did the right thing by listening. If you had walked in tonight, he would have been waiting for you." Waiting for me? The words echoed in my head, sharp and heavy. This wasn't random. This wasn't bad luck. This was personal. A few minutes later, one of the officers broke away from the scene and walked toward my car. His face was serious, but he softened when he saw me trembling in the driver's seat. He leaned down and said, "Miss Carter, you're safe now. We've cleared the house." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Who was he? What was he doing in my home? The officer hesitated, then finally answered, "We found evidence that he wasn't there to rob you. He'd been following you for weeks. Inside, we found photos of you printed out, some cut from social media, some taken without you noticing. He laid them out across your coffee table. He had a knife hidden under the couch cushions. If you had walked in tonight, we don't think you would have walked back out." My chest tightened as his words sank in. My legs felt numb, my vision blurry with tears. I shook my head, refusing to believe it, but deep down, I knew it was real. I had felt eyes on me before, those moments walking from my car when the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I had brushed it off, convincing myself it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. He had been watching me, waiting for the perfect moment. The officer's voice pulled me back. "It was your father's quick thinking that saved you. A neighbor saw the man forcing your back door and called your dad first, knowing he'd get to you quicker than anyone. If you had arrived even 5 minutes earlier, we might be telling a very different story right now." I broke down crying, the weight of it crashing over me. My father's voice came through the phone again, soft but steady. "Emily, I told you to trust me. You did, and you're alive because of it. That's all that matters." I could hardly speak. I felt exposed, violated, terrified all at once. My safe little home had been turned into something unrecognizable, a place where someone planned to hurt me. The thought of it made me sick, but at the same time, a wave of gratitude washed through me. If my dad hadn't called at that exact moment, if I had ignored his warning even for a second, I wouldn't be here. As the police carried the man away, I caught one last glimpse of him. He turned his head just enough that I saw his eyes. They were cold, empty, and fixed on me. A shiver ran through my body as I realized this wasn't over in my mind. No matter what happened to him, that image would stay with me forever. One of the officers asked if I wanted to go inside to see the evidence they had found, but I couldn't. I shook my head and said, "Not tonight, I can't." My home no longer felt like mine. It felt like a trap that I had almost walked into, a place where danger had been waiting in the shadows. I stayed at the gas station until my dad arrived in his truck. When he stepped out and pulled me into his arms, I finally let go of all the fear I had been holding inside. He held me tight, whispering, "You're safe. That's all that matters. You're safe." That night, everything changed. My father's call, my decision to trust him, and the arrival of those flashing lights had drawn a line in my life. On one side was the world I thought I lived in, safe, predictable, ordinary. On the other side was the truth. Danger can wait for you in the most familiar places. And sometimes the only thing standing between life and death is the voice of someone who loves you enough to be believed. The next morning, I woke up at my parents' house. I had barely slept a few hours, my body too tense, my mind replaying every detail of the night before. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was my mom sitting in the chair beside the bed. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She reached for my hand and whispered, "You scared us so badly, Emily. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't listened to your father." Her words made me realize the truth. This wasn't just my story, it was my family's nightmare, too. My dad had been awake all night, pacing the hallway, checking his phone, waiting for updates from the police. When he finally walked into the room, he didn't say anything at first. He just pulled me into a hug, holding me tighter than he ever had before. For a long moment, we stayed like that, both of us crying quietly. No words needed. Later, over breakfast, the police called with more details. The man they arrested had a long history of following women, breaking into homes and waiting for them. He wasn't there to steal money or jewelry. He was there for me. He had studied my routines, when I worked late, when I came home, even what time I usually turned off my lights. The photos laid out on my coffee table weren't just snapshots. They were pieces of a plan. The detective told me, if your father hadn't acted so quickly, things could have gone very differently. Hearing it confirmed out loud sent another chill through me. I couldn't stop thinking about how close I had come. Just minutes. If my shift had ended earlier, if the traffic lights had been green instead of red, I might have walked straight into him. That thought followed me like a shadow. For the next few days, I couldn't bring myself to go back to the house. My dad went with the police to collect some of my essentials, clothes, documents, little things I needed. He told me not to look at the photos they found, and I listened. I didn't want those images burned into my memory. For me, it was enough to know that danger had been closer than I ever imagined. Living through something like that changes you. I started to realize how fragile the idea of safety really is. We all think our homes are our safe place, but the truth is, nothing is guaranteed. And yet, in that fear, I found something stronger: trust. My father's voice, the urgency in his words, was what kept me alive. If I had doubted him even for a second, I wouldn't be here. In the days that followed, friends and neighbors reached out. Some sent flowers, others brought food. Everyone kept saying how lucky I was, but it didn't feel like luck. It felt like love, the kind of love that makes a father pick up the phone at midnight and do whatever it takes to protect his daughter. I remember sitting on the porch with my dad a few nights later. The air was cool, the sky scattered with stars. I finally asked him the question I had been holding inside. "Dad, how did you know? How did you know I couldn't go home?" He looked at me, his face serious but gentle. "Because I know you, and because I trust my gut. Your neighbor called me instead of you because she knew I'd keep you calm." When I heard the fear in her voice, I didn't have time to explain. "I just had to keep you away until help arrived." I sat there quietly, letting his words sink in. I realized then that his call wasn't just instinct. It was love in its purest form. Now, weeks later, I'm slowly starting to rebuild my life. I've moved into a new place, one with stronger locks, security cameras, and alarms. It's not just about walls and doors anymore. It's about peace of mind. But no matter how safe I make my new home, I know that night will stay with me forever. Every time I hear my phone ring late at night, I pause. Every time I walk into my house, I check twice. And every time I think about ignoring a warning, I remember that promise I made at the gas station, to trust my dad, no matter what. The lesson I carry with me is simple but powerful. Sometimes the people who love you see the danger before you do. Sometimes you have to let go of your need for answers and just listen. That trust can mean the difference between life and death. So here I am, telling you this story, not just because it happened to me, but because I want you to remember it, too. Pay attention to the people who love you. Don't brush off their warnings, because one day their words might save your life, just like my dad's did for me. If you found this story powerful, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories.